Mr. Van Bynen, please go ahead, 6 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and to our witnesses with us here today. I want to especially thank Bruce McGregor from the Regional Municipality of York for taking time off his busy schedule to bring a regional perspective into our discussions. I also want to thank him and his team for their work during these difficult times. And it's always been great to work with you, Bruce, and I appreciate the updates of the current situation that your team has been sending out regularly. Bruce, in your opening statement, you mentioned that throughout the pandemic, the region has worked closely with the municipalities. And I'm wondering if you could expand on this collaboration and share with us a bit more about the roles played by the province, the region, and local municipalities, including the differences between each role.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. It's certainly a privilege to bring the local experience to this federal table. We are creatures as municipalities of the provinces and consequently are guided by legislation. In Ontario, that legislation includes a bit of a deeper dive into what are normally services provided by the provinces elsewhere in Canada. So we deliver public health, we deliver housing, social services in partnership with the province of Ontario. With funding, of course, as well from provincial sources. All of that can't possibly fit into a property tax bill. But we do also provide services municipally, and we share those municipal services with our local municipalities that are a collection of towns and cities. Cities like Markham and Vaughan with 400,000 population each and growing, and small rural towns, relatively smaller rural areas with populations of 30 to 40,000. But we, at the regional level, deliver the large consistent services across that area, including the provincial services. We deliver policing, we deliver paramedic services, we deliver water and wastewater, transit, transportation. Local municipalities deliver library services, fire, and recreational services as well. So with respect to the pandemic, of course, our emergency services are connected quite tightly. That's paramedics and police at the regional level, fire at the local level, also with their provincial oversight bodies, of course, engaged as well. Our medical officer of health takes direction from the provincial chief medical officer of health. And of course, there's information flowing from federal sources in the health sector as well. I think, Mr. Chair, that's a quick answer to that question. I hope I haven't left anything out.
A few weeks ago, the region's Facebook page shared a table titled COVID-19 Phase 1 Vaccine Rollout Roles and Responsibilities. I was quick to share that on my page because I think it's unclear to many Canadians, and unfortunately even with colleagues in the House, the role that's played by each level of government as more and more COVID vaccines become available. And I just asked you about the role of the provinces, the municipalities, and the region in this pandemic, so I won't ask you to repeat yourself, but I am wondering if you could share why the region saw it was important to share this information, and where did you find the information about the role that each level of government plays in this pandemic?
So, Mr. Chair, there's tremendous anxiety amongst Canadians generally with respect to vaccination. For the most part, people wanting to get vaccinated and wanting to get two rounds as recommended by the manufacturer. So people are taking information from all kinds of sources. And we found that it was important to manage those expectations relative to the supply of vaccines. We're not alone in the world. Vaccine shortages are even more chronic in some jurisdictions in the world. And we had to make it clear to our residents what we are able to control and what is controlled outside of our jurisdiction. So we had clearly set out the role of the Government of Canada, the role of the Province of Ontario, the role of our municipalities, and frankly, the role as well of the community, because the community has to be responsive. And we've had some wonderful responses. 2 of our mass vaccination clinics are run by community practitioners. So it's a great sign of everybody coming together to provide not only managing expectations, to provide the best possible service and getting vaccinations into arms.
Mm-hmm. So from a regional perspective, Bruce, what are some of the lessons learned and some of the gaps that were found in the responses to this pandemic? And what are some of the recommendations that you would provide us?
Well, I summarized it at the conclusion of my comments, 3 areas where we feel there could be better preparedness for pandemics. In this last generation of municipal employees who are currently employed in our workforce, we've had 3. This is our 3rd pandemic of sorts, SARS, H1N1, and now this one, which is much more significant than others. So we always look to lessons learned as we did from those prior experiences, and are certainly the provision of personal protective equipment is a very important one. And if there was local manufacturing, that would be helpful, as we discovered. Vaccine availability, development, and availability is important as well. I think what we've certainly learned is it takes all 3 levels of government to chip in and to make this work. The funding coming from the senior levels of government has been absolutely critical to keep our communities in a position where they can recover.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Van Bynen.